Hey guys, this is Cheryl Wood, and I am so excited and honored to present to you an amazing new anthology entitled Women Inspiring Nations. Like, just the name itself, I'm sure gives you goosebumps, just like it does me. Let me explain briefly what this compilation and this anthology is all about. I was able to connect with 25 amazing women who have powerful stories of the boldness that they've shared in life, of the courage, the resilience, the willingness to just keep going, even in spite of trials and challenges and setbacks and roadblocks. They just kept going. And what I know is that sometimes all of us, we need to see someone else doing the thing that we want to do. We need to see or witness or hear someone else's story so that we know that we too can triumph over whatever we're going through, and we can get to the other side a bolder, stronger person. Well, that's what you're going to get in this project. These 25 women are vulnerable. They are sharing their raw, authentic truth, and it is going to bless you. I am so excited that I've had the opportunity to create this platform for them to share their stories. I can't wait for you to get a hold of their book. Women Inspiring Nations. It's going to change your life.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Think Big. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Akia Garnett, and I am so excited, first of all, to just introduce to some and reacquaint with others 6 women that Cheryl Wood has put on my radar. Cheryl Wood with Cheryl Empowers is just a powerhouse, and she's done it again. She's doing a new book, an anthology with 25 different women. 6 of them have joined us in the studio this week, and today you're going to meet some of them. Gail Clanton, can you just introduce yourself?
My name is Gail Clanton. I am thrilled to be a part of this project. I'm a blogger, I'm a marketer, and I'm a writer. And I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you.
Great. And Ladrine Peterson?
Yes, hi. I am super excited about this project. I am a business and career strategist. The name of my business is Delivering on Ideas and Thoughts, also known as Do It. So I pretty much help people to strategize their career plans, and I also help with marketing strategies as well as writing business plans.
All right. And Sunita Mitchell?
Yes, I am a mother, an author, a business owner, and I am just super thrilled to be here on today.
All right. How did the book even come about? It's launching in January, right?
Yes.
How did it come about?
So Cheryl, with her dynamic empowerment and all of the different women that she come in contact with, she put out the calling and she was looking for women inspiring nations. So she offered the opportunity for everyone to tell their stories and to offer advice and just to expand our territories and get outside of our zip codes.
So, Gail, your chapter in the book, because each of you have your own chapter,
Correct,
right?
yes.
And each of you named your chapter,
Yes.
what you
Yes.
wanted it to be. Did you have help on determining what the name of the chapter was going to be, or did you kind of have that in your hearts and you knew that's where you wanted to go?
I think we had it in our hearts and knew what we wanted, what message we wanted to get out.
So you talk about grown-up church girl.
Yeah, well, my
Is that-
chapter is called Once Upon a Time, I Got a Divorce.
Yeah.
And I guess the tie-in, so to speak, is I grew up in church. And I grew up doing the things that church girls, good girls do. I had a wonderful family. I had wonderful opportunities. My life was very predictable until I got married. Because I kind of had a once upon a time picture or story that I told myself of how my life was going to be. And I had every reason to believe, because of my background and the opportunities that I had every reason to believe that my once upon a time was going to end up being the way that I expected. But it did not. And so when I began to realize that, hey, your story is going off script, something is off, you're getting a divorce. And then that's when I started writing and blogging as a grown-up church girl, somebody who had those roots, who had the belief that things were going to work out just the way you think because you go to church and you try to do the right things. But sometimes you have to grow up in your faith and recognize that sometimes God says no, and sometimes God says wait, and it doesn't mean that he doesn't love me. It just means that my life is taking a different course.
When you were writing your chapter, had you already talked about the things that are in your chapter, or was some of that coming
I had, but it was
Okay.
a very cathartic experience, just forcing myself to sit down and write about it. And there were things that I began to realize and feelings that I had that I really had not revealed anywhere else until I sat down, write it down, and then submitted it for the book.
Great. We're going to come back to that because I have some follow-up questions for you. Ladrine, the title of your book is Don't Just Dream Your Dream, Do It?
Absolutely.
What was that about? How did that come
Yes.
about?
So it was just like something that I have been thinking for some time. A lot of my friends and clients call me dreamer. They call me dreamer. I really wholeheartedly believe in people's dream. But the problem is people just dream a dream. And you can't stop there. You can't just dream your dream. You have to do it. Do it. And do it also on purpose aligns with the name of my business, which is also Do It. So I wanted to take an opportunity to allow people to realize that they really can do it. And don't just stop at dreaming, but make it happen. So through Do It, D-O-I-T, I offer my advice of D for determination. You gotta be determined, and determination out trumps skills. You can have the skill, but if you don't move and you don't do anything, it's dead. And then O is for obedient. Without God and without following his way, your way is nothing. You have nothing to offer. I is intentional. A lot of times people spend time doing various things, but if you have a focus, a clear focus to your pathway, you will move intentionally. And not only will you succeed and reach your goal, you will supersede it. You will meet that deadline and you will do more than you plan to do. And then the last one is transparency. So many people build up a facade of this fake person because they want someone to like them or they want to appear this way. In the real eyesight of God, we are all broken and faulted in some type of way, but God is the one that makes us whole. So when we talk and we go out and we obtain advice, we're getting fake advice because we're giving a fake facade. So I want people to really understand that it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you are. If you are true to yourself, be true to thine self, I always say. But if you're true to yourself, then the help that God puts in your pathway, it will be truly help. Otherwise, what you're getting help, but it's fake help because you're being fake. So I just really want to offer that as my last piece of it, and that's the T, the transparency. So do it. Do
Right.
it. So
Awesome.
don't just dream a dream.
Thank you, Ladrine. Now, Sunita, what's the name of your chapter?
My chapter in the book is called Shattered Dreams Still Glitter.
Where did that come from?
And that comes from when I lost my daughter at 28 weeks of pregnancy. And her name is Anaya Simone. And it was my husband and I's first baby as a married couple. And that's where the book comes from. It was our lives shattered when we lost her.
Wow.
And how to pull those pieces back together. So Shattered Dreams Still Glitter.
And I think you talk about your darkest moment in your chapter. Can
Yes.
you explain that?
So my darkest moment in my book and in my life with the book was when I really wanted to commit suicide. Because I had gotten so low, I had felt like there was no way out. I wasn't sure, like, what, I thought I was being punished by God, and I thought that, hey, my husband would probably leave me for this. So I just wanted out because I wasn't sure what people were going to think, what people were going to, we were very active in our church. We were leaders in our church and doing all the right things, and then lose our baby girl. It was just a lot to have to deal with, and I didn't want to deal with it. So that was my darkest moment, was when I really wanted to commit suicide. But thanks be to God, he began to speak to me and then told me, you can do this. And that is actually another acronym in another book that I've written, but you can do this and you can handle it. And so that's what pulled me out of my darkest place.
Wow, I'm glad you're here.
Thank
Sanita,
you.
I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank
I'm
you.
very happy to meet you. I'm very
Thank
happy
you.
to meet all of you.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring. I knew you were going to bring this energy, and
Yeah.
it's just, I have 1,000 questions. And
Right.
I know we don't have a lot of time because we have 3 other women that we have to talk to, 3 of your co-authors.
Yes.
But I want to know more about the other book that you wrote.
Oh, so my other book is 10 Keys to Walking in Greatness, and it is built off of what God told me at that darkest moment. So it's the 10 keys. You can do it, and I've broken them all down to help women feel like they can get out of it and they can overcome what they went through.
Ladrine, you mentioned Southeast DC, and
Yes.
then you mentioned traveling the world. Can you take your audience or the audience through a synopsis of your journey?
Yes. So one thing about me, people know that I represent Southeast DC or
Yes.
Southeast DC, however people choose to name it. But from that, my earliest moment is playing on the field in Southeast DC that separates Southeast from Southwest. And it was at the age of 3 when my family members told me I was beautiful, I was smart. And so on through that pathway, I had people to instill in me, teachers and family members. And then I come and I start watching the news when I'm of age. And the statistics tell me that I'm not supposed to live, that I'm supposed to be strung out on drugs, or that I'm not supposed to be successful. So, for me, I was able to negate all of that from my teachers because the information and my foundation that I received from my family members, it outweighed what the TV shows told me. So as I was growing up, I've seen a lot in my life. I've seen people strung out on drugs. I've seen people get shot. It was just the way of life that it was. So growing up in what is known to be the worst quadrant of Washington, D.C., it was a struggle, but it didn't get me. So throughout that, I went on throughout school, excelled. My teachers always instilled in me greatness. My parents, greatness. And more importantly, it was my 6th grade teacher who was also my cousin. And she pretty much told me, like, you are going to succeed. And she challenged me to do the best that I could be. So moving fast forward, I went through high school and then on to my job. I made it a point to excel in HR, human resources, in what I did. And doing that, I was able to create a job right there in my organization that took me around the world. So I went to China, all the different parts of China. I went to India, the various parts of India, Costa Rica, but my last stop on that round the world trip was South Africa. South Africa. And so for that, it was very impactful to me. So Southeast to South Africa, that's my journey. But the important thing about it, I want those people who grew up in Southeast to understand that, and those who are living in Southeast now, the TV media and everything that's being said, it does not stop you. It does not dictate your outcome. It does not dictate your outcome. And I want to be a witness. That's why no matter where I go, wherever I go, I always represent Southeast to let them know that, hey, greatness comes from Southeast.
That's right. That's awesome. Well, you know what? The 3 of you have been talking about your faith. And is this a faith book, or are you all just so led to share your testimony and your experiences about your faith through the book?
I think
No,
it
I don't
just
think that focus was not dictated to us.
but it just
I
came
think
out, right?
perhaps
You
the
did.
people that are drawn to Cheryl Wood because she speaks so openly about her faith, we just felt open to express ourselves that way.
Right, because you mentioned earlier on being a church girl and growing up in the church, and the 3 of you sort of mentioned how these ideals or patterns of behavior that we're supposed to take on, especially if you're in the faith, just sort of dictate our lives. People expect a certain thing, if you've grown up in a church or if you've been in a faith-based family, then, these are just, mores or ways that we're supposed to behave. And when we operate outside that norm, not only is it a shock for our family and our friends, but for ourselves as well, because we kind of fall from graces or whatever it is that we thought, was the ideal, whatever we thought we were supposed to live up to. And I heard each of you talk about that. How are you working to articulate to others that it's okay if they don't measure up to whatever it is that they put in their head, or whatever their family or their pastors or whoever has put in their head regarding a perfect person that must display all of that perfection on the outside, when in actuality we're all imperfect beings?
Exactly. So you said it.
Right.
No, not one is perfect. Not one walking this earth is perfect. So when we as individuals really get to the point of being respectful to one another and understanding one another, the world will be such a better place. Because what happens is, if you put on a facade and you put on a facade, I and she, we are in this whole battle of putting a standard of something that is fake or unauthentic. So then you try to meet that. So I really urge people to be themselves, to be themselves, be at the level of where you are, because there's only one that you have to answer to, and that's the man above. And he accepts you however you are. Come as you are for him.
Right. And what I was going to say is that goes back to the title of my book. Shattered dreams still glitter, although it's like all the pieces. So all those imperfections come together and you still shine. So even though people may think that it's a perfect road, there is no perfect road to get to the purpose that God has for you. It's all those collective things, experiences that you've gone through that comes together and makes something beautiful. So even though it can be shattered, you've gone through divorce, you've come from a bad background, you lost a baby, you can take all those things and still, in God's eyes, once it's put all together, he sees the fragments and it's just beautiful. So it's beautiful, and that's how you trump what people say, like this should be perfect, something should be perfect, but that would make life boring if everything was just going according to plan.
Gail, when you were...
go ahead. I just wanted to add that I think that's why this book is so important, because we have taken off our mask and are exposing ourselves for who we are. We're explaining to people what we've been through and how we've gone through it. I sponsored a conference earlier this year, and we had people who grew up in church and were still going to church. Me, who suffered through 3 years of absolute torment, crazy stuff, dealing with a divorce. A woman who was on crack for 20 years, sitting in the pews every Sunday. A woman who was dealing with food addiction, drug addiction, sexual abuse, promiscuity. The fact that we're all sitting there in the pew trying to be perfect, because when we look out, we don't see anybody who's told us a story of how they went through something and got on the other side of it. So we feel like in order to fit in, we've got to be as perfect as these people are appearing to be. What I'm trying to do through conferences, through speaking, and just through my everyday life is let the mask fall down and let people know that, you feel like you did the right things, but life still happens. Life still happens, but yet you can get on the other side and succeed and smile about it and come and be on the radio.
Yeah, so and if you have a profile, Gail, of the person that you are talking to, I think, Ladrine, you did a pretty good job telling us, this is who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the person, the kid who grew up in Southeast, or the person who's growing up there right now, and letting them know that there is hope, and there is a way out, and that your circumstances don't dictate your outcome. Gail, if you had to create that profile and explain it to people, who is going to best benefit from your chapter in the book?
I think women of faith. I think it will be women who thought they were doing the right things and who came to a point in their life where they felt like something has gone wrong. Now, what do? Do you let go of your faith? Do you turn your back on God? Do you say that, this was just a facade, this was fake, this wasn't real? Or do you find another course to take? And do you embrace other sisters who have been through something and begin to learn from their stories? So my message is to women of faith who have gone through something, and I would like to encourage them to tell their stories to other women and to that sister that's sitting in the pew who's hurting, who's smiling, when on the inside she's torn up. I want to be able to present myself to her as somebody who has overcome a difficulty, and then point her in the direction of other women who have overcome difficulties.
Sunita, where did you find the strength, the energy, positive thinking, and all of those things to come out of that place where you were?
It was, again, my faith. I mean, it was my husband, our communication with one another. That was key. Again, the faith, because without faith, you can't do anything. You can't accomplish anything. It has to be me truly trusting God at His promises that everything works for my good, even when it's something bad, that it was going to be turned around into something good. Because now look at me now, being on, radio, TV,
Right.
different things. It's still working for my good, even though it was one of the darkest moments of our life. And so that's where I found that strength. It was being surrounded with a body of believers who would encourage me, and also your friends. Like, I have really close friends that were there. Wasn't a lot of them, but it was like, God sends exactly who you need. And she rolled with me through it. Like, let me cry, didn't say anything. So those were some of the things that really got me through. But the number one thing was my faith.
Wow. We talk all the time about you don't know what somebody's going through. You don't know if that kind word that you say to them will make a difference, or if that harsh word you say to them, could be the last, straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. And you sharing your story is just a beautiful thing for people to hear, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, regardless of how dark you think it is. If we can just hold on. We did a show not too long ago on suicide prevention, and in the Black community, it is still somewhat of a stigma to say that you're struggling with mental, with some sort of a mental illness. Not only is it a challenge to actually say it, but the number of us that are not even seeing professional support and finding ways to work through medication, if that's something that you have to do, or therapy and or both, is still very much an unknown in our community. And so I might want to have you back on. We've already been talking about how we can bring even more awareness to this whole concept of people taking their lives because of the pain that they might be masking,
Right.
And in many ways, for those very reasons that we've talked about, that perfection sort of profile that we are taught to live up to or not for our entire lives. As we close out for this particular part of the segment and get ready to bring your co-authors on, is there anything that each of you would like to share with our audiences so that they can be inspired and also read your chapter?
So I'll go first. So for me, in addition to those who grew up in Southeast, my chapter is for anyone who's holding on a dream, anyone who is stuck and afraid, or for whatever reason not moving forward with their God-given gift.
Ladrine, why do you think people get there? Because we have like really big ideas, great ideas sometimes, and it's just like, okay, I'm going to write that one down or not. It just stays in your head. What do you think is that makes a difference between those that do?
I think that the difference is that some people are so afraid and they think that it's so big that it's ridiculous. But if it's not big and ridiculous, it's just a thought. It's not a dream. So I think that once people get in contact and start networking with people and they realize optimization, and I use that word a lot, focus on what you do well, because all the other things they're going to distract you. You're going to be like, oh, that website is too hard, I don't want to do that. Trying to do an auto response is too hard, I'm not going to do that. Don't get stuck up on that. Invest in yourself.
Right.
Pay to have that done, because otherwise you're losing time and you're wasting money. But focus on what you enjoy doing, what you're passionate about, and your purpose. And oh my goodness, and I know I get so excited, but I do, but I'm serious. That's the difference. That's the difference between it. Some people just think that it cannot happen. When any dream that you have, it really can be fulfilled. It
Yeah.
really can be fulfilled.
Well, I hope that teacher that encouraged you, I hope she's watching right now, or he. I hope they're proud
Rest in
of,
peace, she
of that.
passed away,
Okay.
but it still lives
Maybe
on.
she's watching over.
Yes, it still lives on. And my family, teachers, and other teachers that I go to, and everyone that I impact, I really stick with them, make a difference, and I know that they're watching me. But I also encourage them, and they're inspiring me as well. So it's a whole connection thing. It's
Right.
a whole connection thing. So we have to optimize.
Great. And Gail?
Well, my message, I think, would be to hold tight. To hold tight, to not be so tied to our preconceived ideas of how things are supposed to be that we don't keep our eyes open to new and different opportunities. And then also, once we get on our other side of through, I would encourage women to tell their stories so that other people don't have to suffer the exact same way they suffered. Yeah, they're going to go through. We're all going to go through. But you shouldn't go through the same exact way I went through.
Right.
Because you ought to have been able to have learned something from my experience, and I ought to have taught you that.
Right. Antonita?
Anyone who would read my chapter is really for the person who feels their experience is so deep that no one understands, or they feel like there is no way out, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that there is hope, that they don't have to give up, and that their dreams still can come true.
Right. Thank you, three ladies.
Thank you.
Stay right here. We'll be right back with three other co-authors for Women Inspiring Nations.
The Black Student Fund has been around for more than 50 years, and it served as an important resource for many, many families in the area who may not have always felt welcomed to independent schools. For school heads and administrators like me, it's a bit of a party and celebration coming to this, not only seeing other school personnel, but to meet so many families, some of whom have traveled from a distance, and I think they know that this is the one fair where they're going to see all the schools in the area.
Independent schools are such a wonderful resource for all the families, but particularly for families of color who may not have necessarily access that we need them to have. So this is a place where you can literally see every kind of education possible in the independent school world. So we have to give everyone an equal playing field. Black Student Fund allows us to do that.
We provide more insight into the admissions process, which has become more complicated than 50 years ago, so that families understand what they're going to have to do to actually apply to schools, complete the testing that's required for admission to the schools, and to position themselves through the financial aid process.
What I'm trying to get out of it is just basically making sure that I can give him better than what I had when I was growing up, and giving him a better start and the best education that I can give them all.
Luke is a special kid. He's pretty advanced, so we were looking for something that's affordable that we could get him in.
Today is a day when people learn that there is hundreds of millions of dollars of financial aid that's given out by these schools. Today is a day of people making connections about their dream for their kids.
I would say that the Washington, D.C. area may have some of the most diverse independent schools in the country, and I think there's a direct link with the Black Student Fund. I think it's been transformative for many individuals, but also for the schools.
Welcome back to Think Big. I am your host, Akia Garnett, and I am now joined by 3 more co-authors for Women Inspiring Nations. Tori,
Hi.
will you please introduce yourself?
My name is Tori. I am a blogger, a writer. This is my 3rd book project that I've been introduced to. I also have hosted radio as well. So this is a treat for me being on the other end of it. Also a social worker, and by day a federal parole officer.
Wow.
That worked with women for 7 years.
All right. Nobody's in trouble in here, Tori, so you can just relax that part of it. Maida.
So my name is Maida Figueroa Clark, and I am a dating coach. I work with single professional women 35 and over who are successful in every area of their life, but just have challenges in the areas of romance and love and really marriage.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much everybody, right? Janice?
Hi, my name is Janice Bowles. By day, I am a realtor. I have a small business where I buy distressed properties and flip them for sale. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, a life encourager, I like to call myself. And I'm coming into a newness now where I am wanting to just share my story, and my passion is to help others recover from grief.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Why did you all answer the call that Cheryl put out for women to share? Who wants to take that one?
There's a fire in my belly.
Yeah.
You know, there's a fire in my belly. I had no idea that this would be the path that I would be on, you know, in my mid-40s, talking to single women about marriage. I had no idea that this would be it. But the longer I do it and the more I do it, the need is so great. Where we have women who, like me, cry themselves to sleep because they felt like love was not something that they can have. They felt like romance was something just on TV, or just for her, or just for him, but not for me. And so let me just pour myself into my faith, or pour myself into my family, or pour myself into my career. But love? Nah, never mind. But still desiring it in their hearts. So when she gave it the call to write a chapter on something that's burning in my belly, I just had to do it.
Yeah. Tori?
Yeah. The answer for the call was to address trauma, especially centered around domestic violence. A lot of people always think it's just physical. It's not just physical. It's emotional, it's spiritual, it's financial. So I wanted to get it to the point of the healing process of going through trauma from domestic violence.
Tori, what's the exact title of your chapter?
He Kept Me Until Now.
And
I picked it because of God keeping me now to tell this story to other women that might think it's just only them. Just to be able to let them know there is a healing process that you have to go through. Instead of jumping into one relationship after another relationship, take the time to heal after you've gone and experienced through trauma, to know what it looks like to start loving yourself again, to be able to accept and receive love when after everything has happened.
Wow, and I'm thinking that you are also able to draw on your social work background to be able to help people break down some of those walls and feelings, because sometimes we can't even describe why we feel a certain way.
Right,
we just do.
Exactly. Or either what does love look like, or what does loving yourself look like. You can't love someone else if you don't know what love looks like for you if you don't love yourself.
Right. Janice, what's the name of your chapter?
The name of my chapter is That Wonderful Feeling of Healing. Blisters Are Only Temporary. And for me, I wanted to use the symbolism of the feet. The feet are our foundation. Our legs get us through, along with the feet, for, just through life in general. The ups and downs, the struggle of life. So when I tried to correlate having blisters, those are temporary setbacks, temporary heartaches, temporary griefs that we go through. And I wanted to share that, those types are just, a part of life, the emotional setbacks, but to use it as an anchor that we can just get through if we just hold on.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to use that particular symbolism.
Maida, how many rewrites did you have of your chapter?
In my head or actual? About 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's it. What did you really want people to walk away from your chapter knowing?
That there's power in love, and that although love is scary, that it is for them as well.
Right, because you talk specifically about, or you have some points to share with women who are over 35 and fearful of marriage.
Yes. Yes. So I'm married, and I got married over 35. And, you know, had my first child at 37 and had my second at so those are the things that, like I said, I didn't know this was my path. I too am a social worker. I'm a therapist. So I thought that would be my path. And just knowing that women after woman after woman kept asking me, what did you do different? How did you get to this point? And it really was about saying, oh my gosh, this love story is for me too.
Right.
And it's for you, and it's for you, and it's for anyone who really believes it. But sometimes we have to get out of that shell.
Right. I see so many synergies between the two of you, actually between the three of you, and the things that you've been talking about. When it comes to domestic violence, you know, that topic has gotten so much more support and exposure over the last 5 to 10 years, which is a very good thing because so many people have been silent as they've gone through various forms of, you know, abuse. How did you decide that you were actually going to address that particular area of life for people?
It was pretty hard. The first time I've ever written about it or either started to speak about it, it was still painful for me, to the point where I just shut down and didn't want to talk about it. I think as I got older, I knew that I needed to talk about it because I knew I wasn't the only woman that was experiencing the pain of domestic violence, and what does it look like after domestic violence.
Right.
So I wanted to share because I knew that if I couldn't help 50 women, I knew I could help one woman to know that she's not alone.
Do you think there's shame associated with domestic violence?
I believe so. Working with women for 7 years, you hear they minimize it, or either they take the blame for being hit or experiencing domestic violence, or they say, oh, it was my fault because I said, or either it's not your fault.
Right. Well, I mean, I know you all remember the famous, God rest her soul, Whitney Houston, when she mentioned what is hitting or what is abuse. And I think that really sparked an outrage for people. But like I said, over the last 5 to 10 years, it's a wonderful thing that so much support is out there. We just went through National Domestic Violence Month, right? Yes. Were you active during that month?
I am always active during that course of the time. I'm also a board member of Serenity's Door, where we help other women that are in domestic violence shelters. But what I do still see is that we still need to educate our younger women in reference to domestic violence and teen violence, because for them, it's a cute thing that he's jealous, or either it's a cute thing.
Oh, so you're saying it starts even back then?
Exactly.
Yeah, it starts that early in life.
So I think it's more or less we need to start to educate our teens that this is not what a relationship's supposed to be, and this is not what love looks like. Also teaching the boys and the girls, you do not hit each other. Regardless, you have to teach your young ones early that this is not appropriate behavior. To the point where we start seeing women several months ago that either are set on fire while carrying babies, or still getting killed, or still being abused, and we still have it in our churches where women are just sitting in pews and getting abused, and they're not saying anything.
Right, we just talked about that the last segment ago, and that perfection sort of profile that we put ahead of ourselves and try to live up to it. Do you look, Janice, when you're sharing your story, more as educational or more as spiritual?
I look at it in a sense as a little of both. For me, it was very therapeutic, me sharing my story. Just looking back, I've dealt with grief basically over half of my life. I lost my parents at a very young age, a brother in my early 20s, and I never really dealt with grief. I didn't know how to deal with it. I just, went through life. The stigma within the African American community to even seek counseling, that's a big no-no. So I didn't know where to turn. So I just went, day to day. But as each loved one of mine, passed away, and it turned into resentment spiritually, where I, resented God, and it's like questioning Him. Why did He take them? Why am I going through this? And I just didn't have anywhere to turn. Most recently, what brought me to the point of getting to this point of sharing my story was in 2013, I lost my sister. She passed away very suddenly, my only biological sister. And the impact of losing her, but not being in communication with her 7 years prior to her death. We had an estranged relationship. So when she died, that just was very impactful on me. So again, I'm going through resentment. I'm going through questioning myself. I could have did something differently to make our relationship better. She could have did something, just all the emotions and not being able to express it or have someone to talk to. So it led me to write therapeutically. And in 2015, I wrote a book called Complicated Grief, My Journey Towards Peace. And it was specifically to process the death of my sister. And realizing that even at that point, I still wasn't ready to share the experiences. I was still in grief mode. And it was very hard. Grief is hurtful, it's resentful, it stings.
Yeah.
We're supposed to mourn. Mourning is resemblance and recognition.
And it's so hard when we're women, right? We're supposed to be strong. That's what they tell us, right? We got to carry the family, can't break down.
Exactly.
You can't really bear it all, but sometimes on the inside you're just breaking up, and you don't have anybody to help you through some of that. You can really just turn all that stuff into bitterness,
right,
and anger and other things that can come out in an unhealthy way. But back to you, Maida. I had a friend who, she was turning 40, and she had not been married, and she didn't have any children yet, and it was the worst birthday for her. Yeah. I mean, she dreaded it. I mean, it was so foreign to me. I had children earlier, so I didn't understand her grief, but I just wanted to be there for her. Yeah. And as I got older, I understood. So it can be that really, really hard thing for women. Even if you have children or been married and you want to do that again, how do you help people actually just get to the point where they feel comfortable putting themselves out there?
Yeah. I think, first of all, it's really understanding that you're not alone. Because I think a lot of women over 40 feel like, I don't want to seem desperate.
Right.
I don't want to seem what we call thirsty. Right? Now, I'm too mature for the dating scene or the club scene or the bar scene. So I really have to figure out, what is it that I need to do? And so putting yourself out there is really starting with self and getting yourself authentic.
I hope you guys are working together.
Yeah, we are now.
I really do.
Like getting authentic with yourself, getting real with what you want and what you desire, and not being afraid to be a little vulnerable and to tap into that feminine energy again that we've kind of switched off because we had to make it to the next step, because we had to be masculine. Well, that doesn't serve us in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, especially, how do you, and then especially with women, I mean, if you've been a single woman or a single mother, right, you've been sort of wearing both of those hats, trying to do everything you possibly can, and then you have to kind of step back and say, okay, I got to make room for someone else to come in and make some decisions around here, or, whatever, have an opinion, have a drawer of socks for somebody else,
have a hanger
or something, it's not an easy thing to do, to just kind of pull yourself back. So it's a good thing that you're helping women. I'm assuming men too?
No, right now
just women?
It's just women.
Okay.
It's just women at this point.
That's enough to keep you busy, right?
My husband and I are working on a project for 2018 to incorporate men, but right now, I'm pouring into my sisters.
So hold on, brothers. Sounds like you're going to get some help soon. Tori, what's the best possible thing that could happen as a result of you participating in this project?
Having women free mentally. I recently was reached out by a former classmate from high school that a girlfriend reached out to her and put on notice to all friends that she was being abused. So I had to walk my former classmate through what is needed to be done with her, what is to be expected with her at that time. She's being vulnerable, and at this time when she has reached out, this is when you need to support her. Knowing because what she explained to me was the young lady that's her friend was being abused, and she felt as though she was alone, that she wouldn't be able to get out because her husband is a son of a pastor in Maryland, so he felt as though no one would ever believe her.
Right.
So I had to walk her through, this is what you need to do. And she said, well, what can you possibly do? I said, well, I'll come in after when she's ready as a life coach to build her back up to the point where she will be fine to do it on her own, knowing that she has 2 small kids that she has to live for.
Right. Do you think that the National Awareness for Domestic Violence Month, do you think it's helping?
I think it's helping, but I think we need more from the standpoint of certain laws need to be changed. Some laws need to be a little bit stiffer. I think judges that put in peace orders need to take it more seriously because I don't think they take them seriously.
Right. Until it's too late, right?
Until it's too late.
Yeah. Well, Tori Ball,
Yes.
help people understand how they can get in touch with you.
They can get in touch with me with going to Facebook, Tori Rogers Ball, Rodgers Ball with only, it's just singular, not two. Tori Inspires blog on Instagram and also Elite.org on Instagram as well, and Tori Inspires on Twitter.
Maida?
You can get in touch with me by Maida, the Love Expert, on all social media handles. And that's Mayra, the Love Expert, on all social media handles. As well as my website, which is all the W's for singlewomenonly.com. So www.singlewomenonly.com.
And Janice?
I can be reached with IamJaniceBowles.com. On Facebook, simply Janice Bowles, Boles, and Instagram, it's Janice B.
Right. Well, I want to send a very, very warm thank you to Cheryl Wood with Cheryl Empowers. Thank you again, Cheryl. And earlier we had on Sunita Mitchell, we had on Ladrine Peterson and Gail Clanton, and you can find their contact information in the credits for this show as well. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of Think Big. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, this is Cheryl Wood, and I am so excited.